wow. This is you. Look at you. You have completed all 3 required quests for semester 1 of my English 10 class. That is amazing. You should just take a moment and bask in the glory of that. Just take a moment and bask in the glory. Okay, now that you have that out of the way, here you are at quest number 4. This is the optional quest. It's a little bit more you-directed. It's a little bit more fun for you, I hope. Here's the thing. I really, really, really recommend that you work with at least one other person on this project for 2 reasons. Number 1, you have a fairly limited amount of time to get this done in. I don't know exactly when you're watching this. I am recording this in, let's say, June. But you will have a very small amount of time between when you finished the end of Quest 3 and the end of the semester on December 21st. So if you have somebody to sort of split up the work with, or a group of 3 or 4 people that can split up the work, that's really good. That it's going to help you get it done on time. The other reason why I really recommend this is that when you are talking about this kind of project, this kind of sort of step-by-step, we're identifying a problem, we're going to work on coming up with a solution for the problem, we're going to maybe prototype it, sketch it out, that kind of thing, and then we're going to have it. That works so much better when you're working with a team. Because if you're just doing it by yourself, the only person that you're going to bounce ideas off of is yourself. And there are 2 options there. One, you're going to say that every single idea that you have is brilliant because you're talking to yourself. And then the bad ideas, you're going to call them brilliant and your project is going to be terrible. Or you're going to be the kind of person who every idea that you think of, you're like, no, can't do that. That's stupid. I'm stupid. And you're not stupid. You finished all 3 required quests. You are not stupid. So if you have another person or a couple more people that you can talk things over with, you can plan out this project, that's really the best way to go. So before you go any further, I really recommend that you identify a partner or a small group. Quest number 4 has 2 levels, but I'm just doing this one video because I think thinking about both of these levels at the same time is probably a better way to approach the project. And the gist of the project is that you are going to identify some part of your world that needs a little bit of courage. And I'm going to explain 2 parts of that idea because it can be a little bit confusing, a little bit ambiguous. We're going to start with your world. What I say when I say, or what I mean when I say your world is however you want to define your world. If you want to talk about my classroom, there's something going on in my classroom that you think could be different, could be better, that's fine. If you want to talk about planet Earth, that's fine. If you want to talk about any place in between, that is also fine. I don't recommend going beyond planet Earth. I really don't have the resources right now to help you get like to Mars or whatever. So if you can just kind of keep it within this planet, that'd be awesome. The other part of that project, the idea that some part of your world needs courage, that comes directly from Damon Davis. Level 1 of this quest opens with a TED Talk by Damon Davis called Courage is Contagious. And Davis, as it turns out, is from St. Louis. He was born in East St. Louis. He's lived around St. Louis all of his life. And in 2015, when Michael Brown was killed by a police officer in Ferguson, Missouri, right near St. Louis, Davis got involved in some of the protests that were going on. And he came to some realizations about fear, about art, and about courage. And he says in this TED Talk that for him, art is a conduit of courage, that art is what creates this wall of courage between the people and the powers that be that want the people to be afraid. That, you can do something, you can have some kind of courage that is going to empower the people against that fear. And so he talks about that and what his process was. And that's kind of what you and your team are going to do for the rest of level 1, is you are going to start to think about, okay, what is happening where there is some kind of fear or where there is some kind of problem, where something is going on that needs courage. And then, we as a team, your team, you're going to say, we are going to try to think of some of these places, and then we're going to try to think of some ways to try to bring courage to those places. And doing this particular level, we're going to probably reintroduce you to the design cycle, which starts with identify a problem, ask some questions about it, and so on, all the way around to, attempt it, get some feedback and revision. And it's the engineering cycle. If you've been down to the innovation lab or any of our makerspaces, I mean, it should be something that you've seen before at least once. So you and your team are going to kind of go through that. And at the end of this level, at the end of level 1, there's nothing written that you need to turn in. You will submit your Google Doc level document, but there's no like essay or anything. Instead, you and your team are going to sit down and have a conference with me about the area that you've identified as needing some courage. And I'm being purposely vague about all of this because I want you to really direct where this project is going, so that when you sit down with me at the end of the level, I say, okay, what do you want to do? And you go through some ideas with me, and then we talk through what would be actually possible. Very quickly, I want to put up the rubric for level 1. The big standard here is the discussion standard, that your group is well prepared to conference with me, that during the conference, everybody is participating, and during the conference, you and I, and you meaning your group, you and I are able to narrow down to the one thing that is probably going to be best for you to work on, so that your group and I are actually having a discussion. It's not a presentation by you to me, it's a conversation where you say these are our ideas, and I help talk you through them to really get you down to something that might be feasible in the time that you have left, and that might turn out to be pretty fun and pretty interesting. There's also a media literacy standard, which in part is just making sure that you understand what Damon Davis is talking about in his TED Talk, but then also understanding the design cycle. I've thrown in a crash course engineering video just to refresh your memory on what the design cycle is really all about. Now, that's level 1. Level 2 is actually doing the project. And then, because when you get to level 2, the instructions are basically go. There's there are no extra videos that you have to watch. There's no short story you have to read. There's no poet. It's just like go. You and your team do the thing. Use me as a resource. I will try to connect you with whatever it is that you need. I'll try to get you whatever supplies you need. I'll try to contact people outside the school if necessary. I can hook you up with people in the school, Mr. Van de Zand, Ms. Perot, Ms. Ellington. And, if you need to get some stuff done, I want to work with you in order to make this project successful. But there is one final piece of writing at the end of it, which is just a reflection. So once you and your group have actually done this thing, you have sat down, you figured out this is the problem that we see, this is what we want to try to do, this is we've prototyped it, we've sketched it out, we've planned it, we've revised that based on some feedback, and now we're doing that, we did the thing. Then I want you personally to do a reflection. Each member of your group is going to do a reflection, and it's about things like was I a good group member, but also things like how well did using the design cycle work out for you, and question. Basically, I just need you to take a moment at the end and reflect on what you did and how well you did, because I am not going to be sitting with your group every second of the way as you complete this project. If I'm going to score you guys as a group, I kind of need some sense from the group members about how the group was working. In fact, let's just go ahead and take a look at the rubric right now. The first thing you're going to notice is that this rubric comes in 2 colors. There's white and green, and here's the difference. Every member of your group is going to have the exact same score on those green standards. So those 2 rows that are green, every member of your group will have the exact same score. And let's talk about those first. There's the presentation standard. So your group may not actually stand up and do a presentation, but this says that you've created a thoughtful and meaningful project designed to bring courage to an area of fear in your community. So what I'm looking for here is that you've carefully planned this, you've refined it a little bit based on some feedback, and it's nice, it's good, it it's successful at what it does. And the media literacy standard here is you followed the design cycle. Then you kind of notice that proficient and basic are not available for this standard. It's really all or nothing. You guys followed the design cycle or you didn't, and that's advanced or it's minimal. So you should really be following the design cycle. But let's take a look at the two individual standards. Planning, editing, and revision. Our project shows careful planning and use of the design cycle to improve our ideas. You might be thinking, why is this an individual score? It starts with our project. Well, I'm going to base this on your reflection, your perception of how well you worked as a team and how well you used the design cycle. So it's not so much for this one that you were the leader of the team, but that you are able to say, well, you know, our first idea was this, but then we revised it to this and we were able to do this following that design cycle. And discussion. My group worked well together and my own participation was strong and considerate of those I worked with. And you'll see again, proficient and basic are not available for this standard. So it's all or nothing. Either your group worked well as a group and you were a good participant in that group, or your group was not so. There was one dominant person who made everybody do exactly what they wanted, or there were two people who sat and did nothing the entire time. So you need to kind of be responsible for making sure that your group is on task, that your group is actually working together as a group. And part of the reason why I am scoring individual and group on this level for this project is that I know sometimes you get into a group and there are certain people who don't play ball. They don't want to participate. They don't want to be a part of the group. They don't agree with anything. They shut everybody down. And if that's happening, I want to see that in your reflection, and I'll kind of understand that, and when I score the group, that will be adequately reflected. And that's, that's it for semester one. If you can get this project done and you still have a little bit of time left over, talk to me. We can work on some other, you probably have levels you can go back and revise till they're advanced. There are probably classmates of yours who really need some help finishing up at the end of the semester, whatever it is. But this is all that I have planned for you here in semester one. So good luck with this project, and I look forward to seeing you in semester two.